my family's Jewish actually, so this was an interesting one for me to choose. Finally, we're getting rid of daylight savings time. Don't have to worry about springing forward or falling back. And I think most of the country was excited to hear about this. I know I was because I hate the time changes so much. It's just less dark or more darkness, more depression for me. But there is a particular group that is not taking this well, and that's the Jewish community is taking this very poorly because apparently it's going to get in the way of their morning prayers that are supposed to be done just before sunrise, and that's going to get in the way of school and work for them. So it's kind of at the point of the needs of the many, the majority of the population of America, going against the needs of the few, with the Jewish population worrying about their prayers and whether or not they deserve to be taken into accord with this issue.
All right.
Yeah, this. Yeah, I think that I can't speak for the US, but we have daytime saving here as well, and it seems to me that this is very much a knee-jerk reaction on that. That's how it's come across from the Jewish community. It's kind of like, oh no, that'll interrupt us. That'll interrupt our daily routine. We can't have that. Let's push back against that. And they've come up with the kind of lousiest excuses. They talked about having children walking to school and it being a danger for them getting to school because of these proposed changes. But as I say, in Britain we have daylight changing, and kids walk to school all the time in the dark in the winter. I did a little bit of digging on this, and I actually found an article in the Huffington Post regarding the kids walking to school, and I couldn't find anything whatsoever that suggested kids are in any more danger going to school in the dark, no matter what season it was. The danger wasn't with kids going to school; it came from kids walking home from school, and knife crime. And this is Britain, by the way, not America. And there was no seasonal variation whatsoever to that danger, but all the danger seemed to be on the back end of school. I couldn't find anything at all regarding people going to school, so it just seems like a lot of hot air that's coming out.
Well, the other thing is that they also used the farmer's excuse, which I always love. I mean, look, the workforce has changed over the past 100 years. I don't know if anybody has noticed that, but we have flexible schedules. Corporate offices, they have their 9 to 5 existence, and farmers, they can get up whenever they want. They can go to bed whenever they want. They don't need to be hardwired to a clock. Most of us don't need to be hardwired to a clock. And we see a lot of accommodations thanks to, like Equal Opportunity Act that says you cannot discriminate somebody, even schedule wise, because of their religion. That's why Muslims get to pray the many times a day that they need to. So all of this, you're trying to make excuses for something that will most likely be fixed by corporate entities or any other entities that will employ people. What else do you have, Josh?
I don't know if you can exactly count on corporate to take care of them for that, especially if they're not hired yet, if they're Jewish faith, not hired yet. Like I'm all for this change in daylight savings times, but I want to give the Jewish people their fair shake here. And I think that if they know that this is a problem and that they're going to need to pray in the middle of their work shift because they can't do it before they get to work, or if it's going to interrupt school time, which is something that the article brought up, I do think that they do have some complaints that are valid if you want to be taking into consideration their faith. And I know that employers, like if they know that a woman's pregnant, they might not want to hire her because she'll be going off real soon. So like they're not supposed to take these things into consideration when they're hiring people. They're supposed to get the best workers, but they can always come up with another reason for why they're not hiring this person. So if there's a Jewish person wanting to get hired, he needs to pray a lot. There's definitely that's going to be a ding against him in the hiring process. If he's already in the workforce, they got to accommodate him. But you got to take into account all the other factors for people constantly changing jobs now.
Wouldn't that work even under the current system, though? Because I think don't correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not 100% on this. Jewish people have to pay 3 times a day. So I think the second one would still fall within the working day anyway. So if that was going to play a factor in it, the kind of employing it, that would work regardless of this daylight saving or not.
Well, then you're adding another issue into their prayer time into work. So that does actually still affect it, whether or not they already have a set prayer time in the workday.
But they don't have a set prayer time because this is all based upon the sun, which I mean, I didn't know Judaism were sun worshippers. That at least that's what it sounds like when you're specifically going after a particular time after the sun rises or when the sun sets. So, what do we do about Jewish people who are in far northern climates? Yeah, this is
This is
and it,
America Central, though.
well, and that is America Central, but we do have Alaska, which is way north, and I don't know the Jewish population in those latitudes, but I would still think that can be an issue. Like, this is probably not as much of an issue for Jewish people down in Florida. There still can be, admittedly, but this is going to affect more like Jewish people in New York than in Arizona, California, things like that.
Yeah, and they can't be expected. And again, I'm all for this. They can't be expected to move. But my biggest thing is whether or not they're this tiny issue for this tiny population of people. Because my family's Jewish. I never even heard of this issue before. Like this is like the really Orthodox Judaism. It sounds like, and so it's an even smaller population than just the Jewish population. So I can understand their issues. I can take pity on their issues, but I also don't think that if we were put this into a vote instead of them just passing this through the Senate like they did, I think that it would have passed and they would have had no leg to stand on. So I don't think they have. They can complain. It can be an inconvenience. I feel pity for them, but it's not something that I would ever change the results of.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of accommodation for people of different faiths. You have a wire that goes around large portions of New York so that Jewish people can push an elevator button because that's technically work unless you're within this special field that they've created around. And it's, otherwise they would have to have elevator stop on every floor during the Sabbath. And nobody really wants that. Uh, Richard,
The other issue I've wanted to bring up, I wrote a lot about it in notes. I went to health.com on this, and actually more sunlight is better for people with depression and stuff like that. Like not like more darkness isn't going to lead to people like with falling into depression or whatever. But if you already have the issues, it's going to exacerbate mental health issues. And this is helping a much larger portion of the population if they're getting more sunlight and after they get off of work instead of just like you go to work when it's dark, you get out of work and it's dark, and that's going to lead to people feeling terrible. Well, there's nothing that backs up why they need to, if they had scientific things that their God actually was listening and needed to get his prayers in right before daylight, then they might have a leg to stand on. But there's scientific evidence that says that this does help depression, getting more sunlight. Human beings are almost plants in this, and that we need the sunlight, and it makes us a whole lot happier, or a lot of us a lot happier. I know I get seasonal depression every single winter, and I would like to see as much sunlight and get as little of that as possible.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I know, Richard, that you have you do have daylight savings time as much as we do, but I've also seen that your empire is trying to get rid of it to varying degrees of unsuccess. Are you seeing similar issues amongst the Jewish population that you have, or is it just
I
you're
mean,
too busy with Brexit?
to be honest, where I live particularly doesn't have a large Jewish community at all. We have a large Muslim community, and there's no issues whatsoever around that, and anything to do with daylight savings, as far as I'm aware, within that community. Regarding the kind of Jewish praying, uh, one thing that struck me about this is that Jewish law because I had a little bit of dig into this, and Jewish law actually allows you to miss prayer anyway, so you can make up for it later in the day. So it seems to be just hot air. This whole thing, it seems to me to be a kind of oh, that's going to inconvenience us a little bit. We don't want
Is,
that. Let's kind of
is
protest about it.
is that across the board on Judaism? Because like I, despite the fact that I have
As far as I'm
I'm
aware,
not an
yeah.
expert.
I mean, you're the one with the Jewish family, not me. So I don't know. As far as I'm aware, that's in Jewish law itself that says if you can, and there are similar things within Islam that say if you miss prayers, you can make up for them later, as long as there's an actual reason and you're not just trying to skip out of them because you don't want to do it. You can actually make up for that.
So yeah, I mean, this does seem it's a lot to do about nothing, especially when they go into the school excuses and they go into the farmer excuses. We've heard this 1,000 different times, and it then boils down to, well, it's what we've always done, and then you actually look into what it actually is, and no, it isn't what has always been done. It was proposed early in the revolutionary times, and then it was brought out you know it, after World War II, and it was supposed to fix a problem of energy consumption. But unfortunately, the way that we've used energy and the way that we do work and everything else has, again, it's changed over the past 100 years, and we need to get with times that are more modern. Josh?
Yeah,
Religions have always had to adjust for the world, anyways. Like they do, kicking and screaming for any kind of social issue. They can do it, getting booted into it with this new law. I don't really see any problems here. They're definitely gonna get inconvenienced, but I'm sure they'll come up with a way to get around it. Maybe if they pray to God, he'll come up with the solution for them to get past this daylight savings nightmare.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, if
that
it's
was
so important, then ask God for longer days, or ask God for a better job. I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm of the same mind that this is. It seems all about inconvenience and not change, and we do live in a world of change. That is. Sorry, Josh, go on.
they are absolutely entitled to fight it, but I don't really see anything coming of them fighting it. Like I would never take away their right to complain about it. Like I'm a complainer, I get it. Anything inconveniences me, I'm going to take it all the way to the top. But and the results of this are going to be very minimal because nobody but them cares about it this way. Everybody I know, and again, I know that's a surface level statistic, but everybody I know is all for this change. So like. And everywhere I look online about this, it's like, yes, finally get away with the clock change, because everybody hates it when we lose that hour of sleep once a year. So I'm definitely sympathetic. I don't sound like it, but that's just the way my voice is. They got problems, but this is going to happen. They're not going to be able to overturn. I'd be very surprised if they overturn this, and then I think the rest of the country would be like fighting for it to happen again.
I still hope it happens. I'm not. I'm skeptical until I actually see it happen, because we have seen bills come and go. We've seen areas like Indiana and Arizona that didn't have it, and I think Arizona voted and is now back under daylight savings time. The time changes and all that. It gets
I have
to
I have friends and family in Arizona. They don't change the time; they stick with it.
Okay. Somewhere, and I'll admit my ignorance here. I don't remember exactly where. Maybe it's Indiana that went back to changing clocks. But yeah, it everything when you look at schedules, when you look at computing, because I'm definitely into computers, and the changing of the time really messes with things. We've learned to overcome that, but and I'm also getting from the booth that Indiana doesn't change. Somewhere they didn't, and now they did. I don't remember.
Put it in the comments.
Yeah, put it in the comments. Let me know. Tell me how wrong I am. So, Richard, what else have you got on this?
I think this is This seems to me, I've said this a couple of times, to be a case of a lot of shouting and arm waving and things of that nature. It seems, and the long and the short of it, as you've both alluded to, the getting rid of daylight saving is a good idea. It's going to benefit everybody, and it seems like there's a small number, and I don't even, like, as Josh said earlier, I don't even think this is the entire Jewish population. This seems to be a very, very small number, even within that population. Are trying to like shout very loud and arm wave and trying to use this to kind of elicit political change to benefit them. And I don't think it's going to work. I
Cha-
don't think there's any need for it. You know, that's
cha-
it, really.
yeah,
And one thing we haven't even talked about is the fact that more daylight when people are coming off work probably means less car accidents. There are people that, like me, I don't see very well driving at night, even with the glasses sometimes. That I know people are less likely to be drunk driving before the sun goes down. So this could actually be on top of depression, along with those factors. You're probably saving more lives and just inconveniencing a community. This is absolutely a good thing.
yeah, the science definitely backs up the fact that getting rid of daylight savings time, and to be clear, I don't I don't know if we should go to just 100% standard time, or if we should, just keep daylight savings time as it is. I don't know. I don't know which is the best way to go. But I do know that whatever we do is just not stopping, but holding the clocks at the same hour is definitely much more of a benefit than it is anything else. And we don't need to be tied down by what was. But let's get some very final words in on this one, and so that we can move on. Richard.
Yeah, whatever you do in whatever quarter of life it is going to be somebody who doesn't like it. And this is, to me, is
True.
one of those situations where, the majority of people are, yeah, that's fine, that's brilliant, that's works absolutely well, and you've got a very small minority of people who don't even seem to be giving very good reasons. It's not like they're coming out with the best reasons and they've got a really good point to make. It's just like, oh yeah, this is going to inconvenience us a little bit, and we don't like it, so we're going to kick up a fuss.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Josh, and final words for you.
I think mental health is more important than a religious doctrine that hasn't been proven. So yeah, let's make this happen. Let's uh, apologize to any of your Jewish friends. Like, hey, sorry, I was all for this. Uh, pat him on the back. Have a good day. Have your prayer a little later. Apparently, you can bankroll them for later on in the day. Uh, yeah, it's gonna happen. Sorry about it.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point where we can I think we've taken enough time on this